Greetings, everybody. Nick here. Welcome back to Groovy Thursdays. We're at Groove 25. I can't believe it. We made it all the way to 25. We're like halfway through the year already, and I have a great groove to share with you today. The song is Stairway to Heaven, the closing section of Stairway to Heaven. The band, of course, is Led Zeppelin and the legendary, one of the greatest drummers of all time, John Bonham. Let's do it. Now, I'm putting myself out on the wire here, walking the tightrope, because whenever you talk about John Bonham's drumming and you put it out there on the World Wide Web for people to read and critique, now you're just asking for it. People are so passionate about John's drumming, his sound, the way he did things. There's lots of opinions out there. I think what I'm talking about here today is correct, but it's just what I'm hearing out of the speakers, trying to figure it out and just having a good time with it. That's the most important thing. John Bonham's drumming is a killer education, a fantastic education in rock and roll drumming, because it's got a little bit of everything. It's got pocket, it's got feel, it's got technique, it's got passion, it's got all of the above. From the early records all the way to the end of his career, his drumming was always, just had a sound and a feel like no other. So I'm going for it. Damn the torpedoes. We're going to go straight ahead. We're going to talk and have fun with some John Bonham drumming today. Let's do it. What makes this groove so incredibly cool is that it's so powerful. It's so impactful. John Bonham's drumming was just huge. Everything he played had it was so meaty. It sat in the pocket so deep. The way he hit the drums, obviously the sound of his drums, the way they recorded his drums, all of those things coupled together made for incredible drum tracks. So many songs. This one is no exception. This groove is also pretty simple, but maybe it's not. I say that because when you listen to the song, especially the remastered version, you can hear it on Spotify, or you can go buy the record. You could do that. You buy music. What? Okay. Anyway, if you listen to the remastered version, especially because it's a little bit clearer, you can definitely hear that there's something else going on rhythmically in the background. And it could be the drum track, or maybe it's an effect. I'm not sure. If you go to YouTube, you could search out Stairway to Heaven drums, and you can hear the drum track isolated from the rest of the instruments. The technology is amazing, right? They put the song out of phase, and so you can just hear that instrument. And it sounds all chorused and stuff, but you could hear just the drums, and you kind of hear the music sprinkled in the background. But you could tell that the groove is pretty simple from what the actual recording is when you play back the main song. I sat down with a friend of mine named Nicholas Morrow. I work with Nicholas at Sweetwater. He's a great engineer, a great drummer, and he's a real student of John Bonham's drumming, Led Zeppelin overall. I mean, he knows his stuff about how they recorded just about every song, the gear they used, the recording gear, what studio they were in, all of that stuff. If I need to know anything Led Zeppelin related, I go to Nicholas. And so I sat down with him in my office the other day, and I played him this part of the song, and I go, man, what are we hearing here? This is part of this. It's the drum track, right? Now let's go back to the beginning. The demonstration I played at the top of the video, I played the groove two ways. Okay. I started the groove with the fill that gets you into it, the blacko-do, 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 clack, clack. I'll go through that in just a second. And then I play the groove the simple way, and I play it 6 times around. The groove is 2 bars long. It's about 102 BPM in 4/4 time, okay? So that's the meat of it right there. And I played it around 6 times. I repeated it. Why I picked 6, I don't know, but that's just what I picked. Then I played that same fill again, splacko-do, 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 blap, blap, and then did it 6 more times, but I guess the more difficult way, the kind of way I'm hearing it when you listen back to the song. I sat down with Nicholas and I showed him both things, and we tried to dissect what's going on here. We listened to the isolated drums, and you can definitely hear what's going on. That sounds like it's a simpler way. And then I played him the track, and I go, what are we hearing here? So let me explain what's going on. Let's start with the simple version, which is probably the main version. It's probably the way he played it. And we'll get into why I'm hearing other stuff when we get to the more difficult version. Just a second. But the simple version, here we go. The first bar of the 2-bar phrase is super simple. 8th notes in your hi-hat hand, snare on 2 and 4, and you play kick drum on 1 and then 3 and. So a really simple rock beat. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Boom, boom, ka, boom, boom, ka. Also, remember here, realize that What John Bonham is playing to is the rhythm of the guitar part. Those accents are exactly what he's playing in the drum part. Let's get to the second bar. So again, he's following the guitar part. What's really cool about this is what the snare drum is doing. You're still playing the eighth notes in your hi-hat hand, solid, non-stop. Tink, tink, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The rhythm of the snare and the kick drum is really cool because it's basically displacing 16th notes every beat. This is what the snare drum is doing. The first snare is on 1 and, then it's on 2E, second 16th note, then it's right on beat 3, downbeat of beat 3, and then the last 16th note of beat 3, the and then 4 and. So it's really cool, right? Now the kick drum also gets displaced as well. So you play on beat 1, and then you play on the last 16th note of beat 1, the then you play on the 2 and, then it's the 3E, second 16th note, and then right on beat 4. Let me sing the snare drum part for you with just a quarter note pulse in the background so you can hear the rhythm of the snare drum. Here's the quarter note pulse, and here's the snare drum rhythm. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 and. It's always funny when I sing it out like that. Now let me sing out the kick drum rhythm for you. Here's our pulse. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, 2 and 3 E and 4. 1 E, 2 and 3 E and 4. Makes me laugh every time. Now let's put both of those together with the quarter note pulse. I'll make the boom sound for the kick drum and the pa sound for the snare drum. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, pa, 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 boom, pa. All of that crazy singing of the rhythm with the quarter note pulse, just so you can hear the rhythm kind of broken down a little bit. The thing that glues this together and what makes it really powerful is actually the hi-hat hand, okay? That driving eighth note in the hi-hat hand, you just keep plowing through and it propels the groove forward, and then you have that solid backbeat, that displaced snare drum accent. I mean, you couple those things together and it's just such a fantastic groove. Now, let's get into version number 2. And let me tell you why I'm doing version number 2. Number 1, I think I hear stuff that's going on, especially in the left speaker, and we'll get into the details here in just a second. Number 2 is that it adds a cool technical thing to your left hand, your snare hand, when you play it like version 2. Lots of ghost notes and doubles with accents in weird places. It's a great left hand or snare hand exercise. What I suggest you do is listen to that part of the song and see if you can hear what I'm hearing. It definitely happens more in the left side, the left speaker. And what I'm hearing is what sounds like to me ghost notes, him playing ghost notes in his left hand. Now, it could be a number of things. And this is what I talked about with my friend Nicholas. Back in those days, there was a echo machine called the Benson Echo Rec, okay? Pink Floyd used this echo machine a lot in their music, and then apparently Jimmy Page found out that they had one like the sound and he had to buy one himself, and they used that actual machine, the Benson Echo Rec, for the sound you hear on the drums on when the levee breaks. The delay on the drums is that machine. It's a really cool piece of gear that had this drum with different play and record heads, let me say that clearly, around this drum, and it just made a loop, and it's just a really cool delayed sound. Now, who knows exactly how they mixed this song? I guess only Jimmy Page knows, and Robert Plant, right? Maybe Jason Bonham knows exactly what's going on here. But what it sounds like to me is that it could be that delay on the drums. Maybe they just put in a little bit of delay on the drums in this last section of the tune and maybe panned it over here. It could be a percussion track. I mean, it was very popular to use shakers, maracas in rock and roll, for sure. The Stones use maracas all the time. It could be that in the background. I don't know what it is, but what it sounds like to me when it's all going on and you're just listening to the tune back, you put on headphones if you want to hear it even clearer, It just sounds like his left hand is doing this incredible ghosting in these weird spots before and after the accents. It's just incredible. When you see or hear John Bonham play Stairway to Heaven on the live record, Song Remains the Same, it's the simpler version, right? And the hi-hat's more open. He's driving it even harder. They're just rocking out in a live setting. But man, I don't know what it is. This sound that's happening because of the way they recorded the song, I don't know. It's magic. I don't know how to explain it. If anybody knows the technical reason of why it sounds like it does, I don't know, send me a comment. Put it in the comments below this video because I'd love to know, and I bet you my friend Nicholas would love to know as well. But if you play it in the drum groove, it is absolutely fantastic, and whatever it is, however they recorded it in the song, it's absolutely magical. Let's get into it. The first bar of the 2-bar phrase is exactly the same as the, quote, simpler version. The hi-hat in the second bar is still the same, still the driving 8th notes, and the kick drum pattern is still exactly the same. Those two things don't change. Hi-hat hand, kick drum stay exactly the same. The main accents for the snare drum are on 1 and, 3, the downbeat of beat 3, and 4 and. Okay, those same accents are in the simpler version, of course. Now, what's happening around those accents is the special sauce. This is also a great technique to practice playing doubles in your hands. Just do a double stroke roll on your snare drum or a practice pad. And what's happening here is you play a double, but the first stroke is soft, and the second stroke of the double is the accent. So it's boom, pa, which is sort of backwards to how we naturally play, okay? Accent the second stroke of the double. Let's take this beat by beat just to make it a little bit simpler, and we can kind of talk through each thing. Remember, this is the second bar of the phrase. In beat 1, the first snare drum, the first ghost note is on the second 16th note, the 1 E, and then you have that first accent on 1 and. So you have 1 E and, 1 poo-pa, 1 poo-pa, 1 soft loud. Practice that. Just get on a practice pad or your snare drum and just play boom-pa, boom-pa. It's a little unnatural feeling until you get that flow. And once you get it, it's really cool, and it'll actually make your double stroke rolls really solid. In the second beat, you have a ghost note on the second 16th note of beat 2, 2E, and then the last 16th note of beat 2. The last 16th note of beat 2 is the start of another double, so you have the soft and loud. The downbeat of beat 3 is the next accent with the ghost right before it, so it's another one of those doubles with the ghost before and the accent after on the second stroke. There's a ghost note on the last 16th note of beat 3. And then in beat 4, it gets even a little bit harder. There's the accent on 4 and, but there's ghost notes before and after. So there's a ghost note on 4E and then and. So you have quiet, loud, quiet. 4E and 4E and poo-pa-poo, poo-pa-poo. It's a really fun technique to practice with your snare hand. Either hand, you can practice with your both hands, but getting that quiet, loud, quiet motion in your wrist, in your forearm, it's really cool. And what you want to do is get a really solid accent on that 4 and, on that backbeat. You want a rim shot, because these accents should really stand out and be loud, because it's still following the rhythm of the guitar. It still needs to propel the groove forward. It still needs to be as loud as the simpler version, all of those things. So this is a great practice tool, how to utilize ghosting around accents that aren't on the typical spots, on the typical beats of, say, 2 and 4. These are on the ands, and then there's one on the downbeat and another and, but you're ghosting around it. And then you're practicing that technique of playing doubles with your left hand, quiet, then loud, soft, then loud, and you want those accents to have strong, powerful backbeats where you're playing rim shots. So there's a lot going on here, and gosh, it sounds so amazing in the song. So I don't know how it was recorded. I don't know how they made this thing happen, but when it comes in, it's absolutely awesome. And if you're having a hard time playing this, just slow it down and break out each part one by one. Remember, the anchor is the hi-hat playing the straight 8th notes over the top of it. Do this first. Play those hi-hat strokes really slowly. Take it one beat at a time if you have to, and start to feel where the snare strokes go in between the hi-hat strokes and where they land at the same time. And get that coordination down 1 beat, then 2 beats, then 3. Before you know it, you'll have the whole bar going, and take it slowly and just bump up the BPM until you're at the tempo of the song. It's the same thing you would do with any rhythm that's a little more difficult. Play it slowly, build it up slowly until you get it to the tempo of the tune, and you can play it with power and feeling. Then, after you get the groove down, I wrote out in the transcription, and I also played it in the demo at the beginning of the video, I wrote out the tag, the drum part that he plays at the end of the vocal section. The reason I did that is so you can practice getting out of that groove and into the tag just like he does in the song. And the way John Bonham does it is he plays the first bar of the 2-bar phrase, and then a bar of fill, and then on into the outro, the very end of the song. And there you go, groove number 25, the closing section of Stairway to Heaven, the band Led Zeppelin with the legendary John Bonham, just one of the greatest drummers ever, such power. And today you get a twofer. This groove comes in 2 versions, 2 ways to play this groove. The simpler version is most likely, of course, the way he recorded it. And when you play the simpler version, just remember to play it with passion and fervor and pocket. And those snare drums, the accents on those snare drums are big and powerful and loud. You drive the simple 8th notes in the hi-hat hand, just drive the groove forward. Okay, play it simple, but just play it with just fervor. I don't know if there's a better word for it. Passion. Just really lay into those snare drums. Then the second version, the harder version, practice those doubles in your left hand with the first stroke being soft, the second stroke being loud. Great technique, great practice for your snare hand, your left hand if you're a right-handed player. It's really fun to do. It's a great practice tool to improve your ghosting and your snare hand, and above and beyond all of that, it's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this groove today, and if you like what's going on at Groovy Thursdays, I ask that you like this video, share it with all your friends, subscribe to the channel, bring on the comments and the suggestions for future grooves. Come back next week. It's groove number 26. We're exactly at the halfway point of the year. Rock and roll. That's so cool. And we'll see you then, everybody. Have a great week. Cheers.